After rescuing 4 birds, a benevolent Samaritan believed that he had performed a virtuous and compassionate act. However, he was later rewarded for his kindness in a breathtaking and extraordinary manner that had to be witnessed to be fully appreciated. Joseph Sekar resided in a peaceful street situated in Triplicane, which is among the oldest districts in Chennai, a city located on the coast of India. Joseph supported himself by working as an electrician, while also pursuing his hobby of photography and videography. He was an average person leading a regular life without any exceptional qualities. However, one day, an extraordinary event occurred in his life. Joseph woke up early one morning and brewed a pot of coffee. It was always good for him to get some caffeine in his system before he started his day. As he sipped on the coffee, Joseph opened the door to his terrace to let the cool morning air in, but that's when he noticed something out of the corner of his eye. Something small and green was in the corner of the terrace. Now, Joseph didn't keep much out there, only a chair and a small table. So to see something so vibrant and colorful was a bit of a shock. That shock was made even larger when he turned his head to study the object tucked away in the corner of the terrace. Joseph's eyes went wide as he fully noticed what he was looking at. It wasn't one single small green object, but rather 4 of them. 4 gorgeous emerald green parakeets. These relatively small birds were quite an intelligent species, and they love warm and temperate climates, which is what makes them so common in India. Joseph had seen plenty of parakeets before, but none this close. It struck him as very strange. Why were they there? Why weren't they flying away as Joseph approached them? It was certainly a strange and confusing series of events. Parakeets are fairly common around these parts. Remember Joseph thinking back to the first encounter, but they tended to keep to themselves and didn't really bother people. Every now and again they'd be brave and swoop in and steal scraps of food. If I left a plate on the terrace, but then they'd fly off again. They'd never stick around. Now, the region had recently been hit by a typhoon. Thankfully, Joseph's home was spared, but many buildings had been destroyed and people had even lost their lives. Not even animals had got away scot-free, and it seems that the budgies sitting on Joseph's terrace were for such unlucky victims. The birds seemed battered and bewildered, and they had damaged wings, making it seemingly impossible for them to fly. So Joseph did the only thing that made sense to him. He took pity on them and went into the house to try to find them some food. He hadn't owned any birds before, so it wasn't like he had any seed that he could give to them. So instead, he brought them some rice. The parakeets excitedly made a chirping noise at Joseph as he approached and gratefully took the rice from him, making short work of it. For several days, the birds remained on the terrace eating the rice and drinking the water that Joseph provided. It was clear that the TLC was having some effect, and the birds looked to be gaining strength and health with each passing day. Eventually, though, the parakeets were well enough to start to try flying again. After a few failed attempts, it seemed like the little green birds were starting to regain their confidence and their ability to fly. And all the while, Joseph would sit at the other end of the terrace and watch on, proud that he was able to help the little birds in some small way. Would they have survived if it wasn't for him? We can't be sure, but what we are certain of is that the 4 parakeets had much more of a fighting chance with Joseph on their side. Slowly but surely, the parakeets started to return to normal, but with one distinct difference. They were no longer intimidated by the presence of Joseph. It's likely understood that he was there to help them, and they accepted him. For that reason, they began to fly, flap, and flutter around the terrace, sometimes veering out into the open air before quickly returning. It was as if Joseph's terrace was their new chosen home. The 4 parakeets had started to garner some attention from neighbors. They were not used to the beautiful little emerald green birds being so sociable and close, and they often complimented Joseph on being special and the chosen one that the birds had selected to stay with. I believe that kindness is kindness, no matter whether you are an animal or a human, said one of Joseph's neighbors. There is clearly some sort of mystical and divine trust between the 4 birds and the man, and it's something that should be celebrated and encouraged. The world needs more love and help in it, and Joseph is doing his small part to make the world a little bit better. He's a good man. Of course, Joseph had grown quite fond of the little birds. He had never had any pets before, but found that he really enjoyed being around the parrots, feeding them, watching them, and caring for them. Unfortunately, though, there was someone less pleased about the arrival of the birds. Joseph's landlord had gotten wind that he was keeping the birds as sort of pets, and he commanded Joseph to either get rid of them or move out of the rented property. Of course, Joseph argued that they were on the terrace, a place open to the elements and animals. One morning, though, Joseph woke and walked out to the terrace and saw something quite sad. All 4 parakeets were perched on the edge of the fencing, and one by one they flew off. This time they headed out towards the sea and away. Joseph sadly smiled. He had played his part. He had been a good Samaritan, and he had made a difference to the lives of those 4 little birds. He slowly turned and walked back into the house, his mind fixed on the 4 parakeets that he had grown quite accustomed to. At least his landlord would be pleased with the development, but something would soon happen that would leave Joseph and the rest of the residents of Chennai absolutely stunned. It really was something that had to be seen to believe. You see, after a week or 2 of life returning to normal, the parakeets finally came back. But it wasn't just the 4 of them. They brought friends. It started with 1 or 2 extra birds, and then as each day passed, more and more would flock to Joseph's terrace. It seemed that the 4 parakeets had somehow communicated that the terrace was a safe place and that Joseph would not harm them in their own way. It was as if they were thanking and showing him that they trusted him. By returning with their friends and family, Joseph was touched and his heart would swell with pride. Every time more birds would show up initially after the first 4 flew away, 5 or 10 parakeets used to come. Joseph said, remembering back to how his collection of birds started to grow. Soon within a year, more than 1,000 parrots started coming, and the number continued to grow. Now at least 300 parrots come here in any season. During the rains, their number swells up to even 6,000. During cyclones, these numbers increase further. They dislike the heat. Their number increases in the winter and rainy seasons. And my landlord is not happy, not that I care. Nowadays a day, several long years after the bulk of the story, Joseph has a grand collection of birds that come to his terrace on a regular basis. Whether they are looking for food or seeking shelter, Joseph is happy to provide them with whatever they need. And every now and then, he has to pinch himself at the sheer amazingness of the situation. Many individuals pause, observe, and admire the stunning spectacle of numerous birds congregating, which is attributable to the act of kindness shown to 4 small parakeets that Joseph encountered years ago. It is not surprising that Joseph acquired the moniker of Birdman of Chennai, given the remarkable outcome of his compassionate deed. Now the floor is yours. What is your impression of this heartening tale? Have you ever encountered such an odd and remarkable incident? If you were in Joseph's position, would you have cared for the parakeets as he did? We always value your feedback and viewpoints, so please share your thoughts and opinions in the comments section below. I hope you liked this video. Please share and subscribe to our channel. Thank you.